Welcome back, everybody. College Football Payoff, Episode 7.
College Football Week 9.
Yep, we completed the first week of Big Ten football last week, and it was different. Ohio State, I want to start off. I'm kind of worried with their defense this year. That being said, I'm probably going to, I'll play every single game for Ohio State, but I think the over is probably going to be more or less what I look at in those games, just because I know Justin Fields and that offense can put up a lot of points. But the defense for Ohio State, the linebacking core does not look good, and it could be some high-scoring games. I still think they go undefeated and they win everything just because of how high-powered their offense is. But, again, it's going to be defense giving up a lot of points, so probably looking at the over in just about every game that they play this year.
Is that because of the rusty start, or did you not like how they played for 4 quarters?
No, their defensive core, I mean, you lost so much on that defensive side of the ball. And then you have the linebackers they had Baron Browning, who's the best one out of all of them, but then Pete Warner and Tuff Borland, they're too slow. You know, they don't fill gaps. And then we lost a lot of defensive backs too. So you only have Shaun Wade as your one returning cornerback. Everyone else kind of looks like maybe they were shaking off the rust, but it just doesn't seem like a Ohio State defense of old.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they can turn it around. I'm kind of hoping we can attribute it to the first game jitters, because they did end up covering.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as time went on, I felt like they figured it out, and I also kind of expected Scott Frost to have Nebraska more ready this year than any year. I mean, especially this is his 3rd year in the program, right?
Yeah, and they looked really good.
They looked good. They looked like you can bet on that team going forward. So, I mean, I remember they were so disappointing last year that everybody that I knew stayed far, far away from them after like week 4, after they were confirmed a bad team. Mm-hmm. I think they have a good chance to even beat Wisconsin this week.
They're not playing this week, unfortunately. But
what?
Yeah.
You're telling me that this proposed schedule of 8 weeks in a row that was this master plan from Kevin Warren isn't working?
No,
and why is that? It's because we have 21-day protocols for COVID?
I walked right into that one, didn't I?
Yeah, no. Kevin Warren is, if you don't know, if you're listening, Kevin Warren is the first-year commissioner of the Big Ten Football Conference. He decided to take it up upon himself to try to be the hero of football in America this year. He was the first conference commissioner to come forward and say, oh, we're canceling the season, we're going to postpone it, yada, 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 thinking that he would be some hero, that other conference would follow suit. The Pac-12 did, but obviously they're full of teams from California and West Coast teams, so you can't expect them to really play. But Kevin Warren, I feel, went into this with intentions of being the hero. Conferences like the Big 12 and SEC told him to, in nice terms, screw off. We're going to get football done this year. And they did. I mean, they're having a full season. They're going to have real teams that get into the playoffs this year. Then Kevin Warren, trying to go back on his mistake, comes forward with a plan to play 8 games in a row, no bye weeks, for the Big 12 or Big 10 season, and puts in COVID stipulations that if 5% of your team is infected with COVID, you have to forfeit the game. So if you have 100 people on a D1 roster and 5 people have COVID, that doesn't make too much sense. On top of that, he thinks it's a good idea for COVID-positive players to be quarantined for 21 days from the league.
That's absurd.
In an 8-week season.
Yeah.
I don't know what to. Let's give a round of applause for Kevin Warren. Great job, Kevin Warren. Thank you for saving Big Ten football.
Yeah, he's not doing the Big Ten country any favors. 21 days is it's dumb. I mean, what is the point if you're out for 21 days, you miss one game? That's half the season that you're out for.
Exactly.
So
what's Wisconsin supposed to do with their season now?
Exactly.
I mean, 21 days.
One game.
Yes.
they could sit out maybe 7.
Nick Saban was on the field 4 days later.
That's
what?
An old coach goes out on the field 4 days after testing positive. So
Yeah. This is just completely ridiculous. I'm sorry to any athlete that plays in the Big Ten, any better of the Big Ten, any fan of the Big Ten. Look at the price of your bad leadership.
yeah,
But now that we're gone from that, after dissing Notre Dame last week, they decided to put a game together.
yeah,
They were playing Pitt, so I don't really
that's all I saw.
really give them too much credit for
saw
it.
the highlights of that game and how they, ESPN and ABC were all up in arms saying, Notre Dame, look at them, look at what they're doing. It's Pittsburgh that they played.
Yeah, they're still the most overrated 3 team in the history of college football.
Yes, and I think Ohio State actually jumped them this week in the poll. So
Good.
Ohio State's sitting at 3. Few other games. Just a quick talk about the Bama-Tennessee game. I lost that. It was, I think the total hit 65, maybe 64. But Waddle breaking his ankle on the opening kickoff was detrimental to my game.
That's detrimental to Alabama's national championship hopes.
Yeah,
I mean, that guy is. I'd bet money that guy's the best skill player on Alabama.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, they have a lot of options, but this may turn into a noticeable loss.
Yep. And Saban, I mean, he caught fire for how he handled it at the end of it, saying that he shouldn't have brought it out. Did you see that? He said,
Yeah.
he shouldn't have brought the ball out of the end zone.
I saw
you
that.
You can't say that.
You can't say that. All respect to Nick Saban, though.
Yeah. All right. So I think that was it. We'll go over our recap of last week. For me, I went 4-3 last week. I am 25-19 overall in the season. Wins included Ohio State at -26, the under 55 in Maryland Northwestern, Iowa State plus 3.5. I won that by half a point. Kansas State -19.5, and then losses. The over 66 in Bama, Tennessee. Navy plus 13, and then the Moneyline Moneymaker lost last week. Navy, Moneyline. So Moneyline Moneymaker is now 5-2 on the year. Still respectable. And like I said, 25-19 overall. I'm feeling good.
Yeah. No, I mean, in last week's Moneyline Moneymaker from you was a 14-point underdog. So, I mean, we were looking for a big win against a vulnerable team. I like to bet.
Yeah.
Although I did take Houston last week.
I know you did.
Other victories were Cincinnati. We had a lock fight last week that we gave out. Dan ended up winning that by half a point with
Iowa State.
Yeah, Iowa State edging out Oklahoma State.
That was a fun game to watch.
That was a really fun game to watch. Man, I still think Oklahoma State probably is. If the Big 12 has a playoff team this year, it can only be Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
So I mean, as long as they keep an undefeated record, I mean, I know the Big 12 sucks this year, but they should have a shot.
They're the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, what do you got this week?
All right, this week, let me start it then. We're going to go number 1 team in the country, Clemson. They're playing Boston College. Clemson's a 31.5-point favorite. The over-under is set at 61. This is a noon kickoff. And this is actually the first of 2 plays that I have on the card this week that have really high numbers. This number is too big to take Clemson, though. Last week, Clemson opened up as a 47.5-point favorite. 47.5 points. That is absurd. Granted, it was against 1-5 Syracuse, but Clemson only won that game. They only won the game by 26 points. And speaking of covers, Clemson is only covered in 1 of the 4 home games this year, and it was a 14-point spread against Miami. So that was really the only reasonable spread this year. Odds makers are pumping up the Tigers, and I think they may have overinflated this one just a bit. Yeah, Clemson is one of the best teams in the country. I will not disagree with that. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne powering an offense, and when they play in these games, the first thing you think is how long are they going to stay in the game in the late stages after they get a lead? right? So are they still in the game after a 3-score lead? I don't think so. This line is 5 scores, and it is against a team that's off to a 4-2 start. They're coming off of a 21-point win last week. So, yeah, Boston College, they don't have the best defense, but it's well improved from last year. Last year, they gave up 488 yards per game. This year, 383 per game. And, not to mention, they did limit that high-octane offense up in North Carolina. They held them to 26 points early in this season. So, Boston College, yeah, they're allowing, on average, about 25 points a game. And, I mean, they put pressure on the quarterback, too. They have 17 sacks and 6 interceptions. Not to mention they have a nice quarterback in Phil Jerkovich. He has 1,671 yards, 12 touchdowns on the year. We'll compare that to Trevor Lawrence, who has 1,834 yards and 17 touchdowns. So he's right up there with yards and touchdown passes. Yeah. Granted, Trevor Lawrence has probably only played, he plays, 3 quarters a game?
If that.
If that.
I've watched him in games this year. I think, especially against the Citadel, he played about a quarter and a half.
Right. So, and in those games, they don't have a 5-score. 5 scores is just kind of too high for me. I think.
Yeah. Well, Dabo's this year has notably been calling the dogs off. Yeah. Except against Georgia Tech, that's the only exception. But he really has been getting playing time for these 3 and 4s on the field.
Yeah. So the improved defense of Boston College and the quarterback play of Jerkovich will keep the game close enough in terms of the spread. Clemson's going to win. We all know that. But I think Clemson jumps out to a big lead, and then they sit their starters for a chunk of the second half, if not the entire second half. You can even count on Boston College to get a late score or two. And I just think 5 scores is too much of a cover for Clemson. So I'm going to go Boston College plus 31.5 in this game.
I like it. I don't think Dabo's the type of guy that's going to try to run up the score.
No.
5 touchdowns. Man, that's a good spot for Clemson, but Boston College has been improving over the last 2 weeks, so I like it. And I like Jerkovich.
I do too. All right. So that was my first pick. That's the opener for me. What do you got?
All right. I'm heading on down to Georgia State, who's hosting one of the hottest teams in college football right now, the number 20th ranked Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. This is the best football team from Coastal Carolina that I've ever seen. They're a known party school. They're a known baseball school. Apparently they have this great coaching staff now that can get real talent to the school. Their starting quarterback is out McCaw. He's thrown for 930 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He's really been the mechanism that has led that Chanticleer offense to a 5-0 start this year. They're averaging 38.2 points a game. But, like I said, he's out. So they're going to have a backup in his last name's Peyton. Last week he threw for 252 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. They did end up edging out Georgia Southern 28-14 with the help of their defense. But I do not expect Coastal Carolina to carry this offensive momentum going forward without McCaw. He's going to be out at least one more week. And Georgia State's no joke on defense. They only allow 97 rushing yards a game this year, and that's against high-octane offenses like Arkansas State. These teams, Georgia State has allowed 39 points a game, but I expect that to drop drastically in this game because with their strong run defense, they're going to force a backup quarterback to have to hit the air. When that happens, and especially after coming off a 2-interception week, it smells trouble and it smells success for both defenses. The over for this game is 65.5. Catch me on the other side of that. Give me the under 65.5 for Coastal and Georgia State.
Yeah, I like Coastal. Every week you look on ESPN and it's something about Coastal Carolina. They're having a lot of fun.
It doesn't hurt that they have the greatest field and pretty cool jerseys. It's easy to root for those guys, especially you view them as some sort of D1, underdog.
Yeah. So depending on how this week goes for them, they're probably going to make it to my card in the upcoming future.
Well, yeah, and McCaw will be back. It's not a season-ending injury. So I really think that if they can get through this little period of Georgia Southern and Georgia State with their backup, we may be looking at them in the Sun Belt Championship at the end of the year.
That'll be fun. All right. So you got Coastal. Second game for me, we're going to do Texas against number 6 Oklahoma State. It's a 4 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Oklahoma State, 3.5-point favorite. Over/under is now set at 59. We mentioned it earlier. Oklahoma State is your Big 12's only shot at sneaking a team into the playoffs. Easily the best defensive team in the conference they hold teams to 12 points a game and about 300 yards per game. So that comes in handy in the offensive-minded Big 12 conference. That defense, they're going to have to step up to stop the second-ranked offense in the conference in Texas. Texas is putting up 482 yards a game, scoring 45 points a game. That's going to be the matchup to watch in this one, is the Cowboy defense against the Longhorn offense. And it's actually what's going to make or break this pick. But can we really trust Sam Ehlinger? He is just as big of a fraud as Tom Herman.
We're back. No, I will step up for Ehlinger here. He's not as big of a fraud as Tom Herman. He's up there. Yeah, he's up there. He's coming in hot.
Those two are a tag team of fraudness. One thing to note with Tom Herman's offense is he loves to run the ball early and often. And what it can do is lead to a lot of third and long situations. That could be a lot of trouble against Oklahoma State because they are the best third down defense in the nation. Ehlinger could be looking at a tough day throwing the ball, and most likely we'll see him trying to get those big plays through the air. But when I think of Sam Ehlinger, I think playing possum in the big games, just kind of falling over and giving up. So we know Texas's offense, Oklahoma State defense is going to be the matchup. I can't say the same about the other sides. Oklahoma State's offense is rolling. I mean, they're 418 yards a game. They put up close to 30 points a game. But these past few games have seen just amazing showings from Chuba Hubbard. And now we have Spencer Sanders back, who, he's expected to start, and he's actually going to be a lot healthier than the previous games. So last week against Iowa State, like we said, it was a fun game to watch. Sanders was 20 of 29, 235 and a touchdown, but he added 82 on the ground and another touchdown. So his dual threat is starting to come into play, and that opens up the ground game for Chuba Hubbard. One of the top backs in the country, obviously. He had 139 and a touchdown last week on just 25 touches. And with Sanders finally being healthy and being able to run, one of the two are going to have a big game on the ground, mainly because they're dangerous ball carriers, but also because Texas is atrocious on defense.
It's a Big 12 syndrome this year.
Yep.
I don't know how we can just continue to run these programs that are supposed to be elite without the notion that we actually have to play defense. Oklahoma and Texas have seemed to have fallen into this realm about every year for the last half decade. It's not going to change midseason. It never has. Tom Herman's unprepared once again.
Yeah, Texas, they have the third worst defense in the country. They give up 380 yards a game, 32 points a game. Texas wants their offense to blanket the defensive play, but Oklahoma State's offense is going to gash the Longhorns, and those two little weasels, Herman and Ehlinger, they're going to continue to show that they are nothing more than a group of frauds. Texas, 1-4 against the spread in the last 5 road games, 0-3-1 against the spread in the last 4 conference games, and they have only covered 1 game this year, while Oklahoma State, 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 following an against the spread win, and 6-1-1 against the spread in their last 8 conference games. Oklahoma State minus 3.5 is my play on this one.
I couldn't side with Texas, so I'd have to side with you if I was betting this game.
Good.
A little throwback for you. Tom Herman is cursed. He will never have success at Texas. It's just karma. If you remember his first bowl game that he coached as head coach of Texas, it was against a Drew Lock-led Missouri team. I remember early in the game, I think it was about the second quarter, Drew Lock threw like a 50-yard plus touchdown. He was on the field doing the Superman pull like Cam Newton does. Then later in the game when Texas went up, Tom Herman's on the side line mocking him, all crazy. And then Missouri ended up coming back to win that game. And right there, I pretty much knew that Tom Herman's tenure at Texas is cursed by karma.
Yeah, and that right there, another reason to take Oklahoma State. All right, let's jump into your next pick. What do you got?
All right, I got Tulane hosting Temple this week. Right off the bat, I'm going to take Tulane -4. Although this team has lost 3 straight, I know it's crazy to say, but they are trending up. They're 2-4 on the season. They made a quarterback switch after that Houston game where they were +5 in turnover differential and ended up losing by 18 still. So they're now starting with a freshman quarterback in Pratt, who has gone crazy for them over the last couple weeks. They have lost, but their offense is so much improved. But they've lost because they've played a murderer's row of offenses. In back-to-back-to-back weeks, they've played Houston, SMU, and UCF. Those are 3 of the top offenses in the league when it comes to production. So I think they're going to actually have a break this week when it comes to Temple. Now, if you look at the box score of Temple last week, they did gain 500 total yards against Memphis. But if we look at Memphis, they're number one. They're the worst defense in the nation when it comes to allowing yards per game. Temple also had 4 turnovers against that worst defense in the nation. I think this is a simple pick for me. Tulane's defense is definitely taking a step down in competition this week. Pratt has been able to find his top target, Watts, this year already for 192 and 1 touchdown since Pratt started playing. That kid is also a freshman, and they already have a connection that's probably going to last for another 3 years. Give me Tulane at home coming off of a murderer's row of opponents and finally playing a step down in competition.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I'm not going to play it, but you enjoy those Coastal, Tulane.
I'm a mid-major guy.
I know you are.
I'm a group of 5 guy. The college football betting market is pretty inefficient. I mean, you're going to find a lot more edges in games in college football compared to the NFL, and you're going to find those edges in the group of 5 games.
I respect it, but I like to stick with the good-known schools, and I like to go with high numbers, which is why UCF Houston is my next play. UCF 3-point favorite. This is a 2 o'clock kick. The over-under is set at 82.5. So like I mentioned before, I had 2 games of ridiculously high numbers. This is game number 2. The total is 82.5. If you see a number that high, you have to play it.
Do you have to?
You absolutely have to. That's
outlandish.
It's so much fun.
But what we do know, UCF is probably good for 50 points in that game.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
Roll the dice.
It's a fun thing to be a part of when you see a number that high, whether you play the over, the under. It's awesome. So I don't care who wins, obviously. I'm just here because I believe this game probably puts up 100 points on the board.
Oh, yeah. This is like a Big 12 shootout game.
Yes. So we'll talk about UCF first. In their 5 games this year, they've scored 51, 50, 34, which your outlier, 51 and 49. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and Dylan Gabriel has been equally impressive this year. I was down on him, I think that Memphis week. I was putting him down, saying he's not that good, but he's proven me wrong. He has 400-plus passing yards in 4 of the 5 games. That includes a 600-yard performance against Memphis that week. So he's been phenomenal. He has 19 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions on the year.
Crazy ratio.
I mean, they're ranked best in the nation in passing yards per game and total yards per game. 5th in the nation in points per game. They're averaging 45.2 points a game. They have the nation's top receiver in Marlon Williams, who has 54 catches for 753 yards and 6 touchdowns. They're dangerous. And if you throw away the game against Tulsa, which was at 34, they only gained 455 yards that game. If you throw that game out the window, UCF has put up at least 630 yards in each game. Houston needs to be able to slow down Dylan Gabriel, but he's just too hot right now. And the rushing game for UCF is not a pushover either. They're 21st in the nation in rushing offense. They have 211 yards per game with basically a three-back crew. They have Otis Anderson, Greg McCrae, and Bentavious Thompson. UCF, like you said, they're going to put up a lot of points. They could easily put up 50 on this Houston team. And it's not saying that Houston's bad. It's just saying UCF's offense is amazing.
Houston's kind of bad, though. Their offense.
All right. We can say Houston's
Pardon me,
bad.
their defense. But, no, Gabriel is a ridiculous athlete. If UCF wasn't 3-2 this year, he's a Heisman dark horse.
Yeah.
I mean, those stats are out of this world.
It's ridiculous. So we talked about UCF. Let's talk a little bit about Houston. They crushed my dreams last week. I was really excited to keep the Moneyline Moneymaker going.
With Navy.
They crushed me. Houston put up 28 unanswered in the second half. They put up 420 yards of offense. They can throw the ball. And they showed that in that Navy game. They closed out the first half with a nice 51-yard touchdown pass.
Did they travel to Navy for that game?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was that crushed my dreams. But moving on, they've thrown out for over 300 yards in all three of their games this year. So they have the 14th best passing attack in the nation. Clayton Tune, their quarterback, he has 945 yards, 7 touchdowns. And although they only have 3 receivers who have more than 100 yards on the season, which is Marquez Stevenson, Keith Corbin, and Trayvon Bradley, they're going up against a defense that has allowed 286 yards through the air. UCF, they give up passing touchdowns too. They've given up 16 touchdown passes in 5 games. So for this game, air raid is an understatement. And after hearing all those numbers, you have to think that the more Dylan Gabriel gets the ball, the more points are going to be scored in this game. So how do you get your quarterback the ball more? Turnovers.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's the one thing that Houston has a problem with, and UCF strives on.
But I will chime in here. If we go back to this UCF game earlier in the season when, I forget who they were playing. Oh, of course, they're playing Eastern Carolina. First half, UCF's defense, they are some ball hawks. They caused turnovers, but in that game, they caused 3 turnovers in the first half, and that resulted in 3 points for them. So I don't expect that to actually happen again.
Yeah, okay. Houston's, they turn over the ball a lot. They've committed the 6 turnovers. They're -5 in the turnover margin. So I think both teams, they're going to be throwing the ball. Both teams are going to be scoring the ball. UCF will cause maybe just a couple extra turnovers here and there. But I think Gabriel's just going to light it up. He's going to have himself another 600-yard game.
Man, I agree. And
I'm taking the over 82.5. This game they're going to score 100 points in this game, man.
Friends don't let friends do that, but I'll let you this time.
Yeah.
But I'm also on this game. I'm going to take UCF -2.5.
Nice.
I'm going to stay away from that huge over. But I mean, on top of everything you said, really good points. I'm a West Virginia fan. I'm very familiar with Dana Holgorsen and the hamster wheel of mediocrity that he puts every team he coaches into. UCF is a pretty dominant team on offense. This is obviously going to be a shootout as both teams don't play defense. But I just honestly think UCF -2.5 is a great line. I mean, what would you think this game is going to be separated by?
Yeah,
I mean, I definitely think minimum
UCF,
a field goal.
Yeah, I think
but
UCF
it could get out of
wins
hand.
by probably 7 or 10.
Man, it could be
Easily.
I mean,
that's an
if
easy
one
margin.
offense gets hot, UCF could win by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I like UCF here. I mean, if you want to have not give them the 2.5 and you're worried about it, the money line's at -125, but give me UCF -2.5.
So you said 3 touchdowns. If they're at 50, what's 21 minus 50? 29. That's 79. Okay, so it's close to 82.5.
I mean, I see this game. This game could be 52-31. What's that put you at? 83?
Yep.
Damn. There's your 3 touchdowns.
All signs point.
All signs point to the over.
And it's going
It's a big risk.
It's going to be fun when I hit it, though.
Hey,
and we're going to have a blast.
I'm not going to give it out officially on the pod. I'll probably just take it in real life.
It's going to be fun to watch. All right. That's going to be a great game. I know we're both going to be watching that one. So we both had that game. Are you next, or do you want me to hit?
I'm going to go. I'm going to go here.
Okay, go
I'm going to go to Southern Mississippi.
Okay.
So if we don't know the history of Southern Mississippi season, they opened the year with losing to South Alabama. They were favored by 2 touchdowns, ended up losing outright. Day after that game happened, their coach resigned. I think he actually got fired, but I think they were kind of helping him out by letting him resign. So interim coach came in. Coached him to 1 victory and 3 more losses. He decides he's getting up out of there. He's now going to Austin Peay to be their head coach. So Southern Mississippi is going into this week on their 3rd coach. What do you think those players feel? Do you think those players are sitting there in a locker room like, oh my gosh, nobody wants to coach at this university? Yeah. They feel unwanted. They feel left. And what happens when you feel unwanted and left?
You don't play.
You curl up in the fetal position and you don't play.
Yep.
Rice is off of a heartbreaking weekend last year.
Quadruple doink.
A quadruple Cody Parkey times 2 doink off the crossbar, left, upright, right. I don't know what it, I think it hit almost every pole, right?
Right, crossbar, left, crossbar out.
That's absolutely ridiculous. And then they lost to one of the worst, allegedly the worst teams in the nation in Middle Tennessee State. But Middle Tennessee State's offense runs through that quarterback, Ash O'Hara, and he has been playing out of his mind for the last 3 weeks. I'll let Rice slide on that because they're not supposed to be some knockout team, but I definitely think they have an advantage this week. Their quarterback Collins last week threw for 242 yards, 4 touchdowns and a pick. He's a high production guy. And on the other side of the ball, Southern Mississippi isn't moving the ball anywhere. Their leading rusher, Frank Gore Jr., shout out Frank Gore, the dinosaur of the NFL. He only has 287 yards through 5 games and 1 touchdown this year. They don't really have any playmakers. Southern Mississippi also allows 43 points a game. I think Rice bounces back. I think Southern Mississippi is so demoralized. I couldn't imagine playing for a 3rd head coach in 6 weeks. So I know schemes probably won't change much, but that team doesn't want to be there. Give me Rice plus the 1.5 on the road at Southern Mississippi.
Yeah, and I don't get how if a team's on their 3rd coach of the year, how are they a favorite in any game?
The line's fishy. The line stinks.
Yeah, I don't understand that.
But I have to rock with Rice here.
Yeah, I would too. That's a good pick. All right. Get away. Let's go to Minnesota against Maryland. Minnesota, 19.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 61. This is a Friday kick, 7:30 on ESPN. So I got a Friday play for once. How fun is that?
I'm usually the Friday guy.
Yeah, you are.
All right. What do you got?
Yeah, we'll flip the script.
Yeah, we'll flip it.
So last week we both thought Minnesota was going to pull off that upset against Michigan. I mean,
to our one new subscriber, you deleted the comment, but you commented on our video last week. What was our most confident Moneyline pick? We sat here and decided Minnesota plus 140. Hey, we're not scared. We'll raise our hand. We were wrong. It's okay. That's gambling.
But, I mean, Minnesota, they have 8 returning starters on offense, and they were coming off an 11-2 season last year where they were averaging 34 points a game. So, with Michigan's questions at quarterback and
no experience.
I mean, the game being played in Minnesota, it felt like we were surefire upset.
The game defied all laws of gambling.
Yeah. But
so, sorry about that.
That's what happens. So, the problem in that game came from a defense for Minnesota that they were ranked 3rd in the Big Ten last year in yards allowed, 306 per game. That defense lost 7 of their starters, including Antoine Winfield to the NFL. So in the game against Michigan, they gave up 253 on the ground and 225 through the air. That would drive most people away from picking them in a big spread games, but no, not me. Because this week they're going up against the worst team in the Big Ten in Maryland. It was between Maryland and Rutgers, but
it's so clearly Maryland.
It's Maryland.
Yes,
it's definitely Maryland.
Tualia.
Yep, they're made up of a team they only have 7 scholarship seniors on their team and 50 new faces.
That's what happens when you bring a new coach in.
Yeah, so they have multiple true freshmen playing on offense. That, and they're trying to mold a new quarterback into the mix. So in a season where you have limited practice schedules due to a pandemic, it's almost impossible to mold a new quarterback into a new system and have 50 new guys show up and get an offense clicking. And, to his brother last week, he had a solid opening drive. We both knew he was going to started off the game with a drive that resulted in a field goal, but that was it. After that drive, he went on to throw 3 interceptions, and he was pulled late in the game. So you don't know what's going to happen, but it sounds like Maryland's still going to stick with they're still going to stick with him, but they're going to have a problem at quarterback like they have for years.
Yeah, I mean, he's a young guy. They got to develop him. He is a talent, but, I mean, he was a straight liability last week.
Yeah. I mean, last year they were 12th in the Big Ten in passing. They threw for 174 a game. Last week, Maryland, they could only get 143 through the air, and they only got 64 on the ground against Northwestern. Tanner Morgan for Minnesota, he threw for 197 and a TD against Michigan, but the big thing for them was the running game. That's what's going to gash the Maryland defense this week. Mohamed Ibrahim, he had 140 on the ground, 2 touchdowns. He's going to be set up for another big game this weekend. Maryland's defense gave up 325 rushing yards last week. Minnesota's better than Northwestern, and coming off of a primetime loss last week, PJ Fleck is not going to let that happen again. They could put up close to 60 in this game.
I agree.
And they could actually cover the over by themselves. Yeah. Minnesota's 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 October games, 6-1-1 against the spread in the last 8 road games, while Maryland is just 1-5 against the spread in the last 6 overall. Maryland minus 19.5 is my play in this one. Minnesota minus 19.5 is the play for this one. Minnesota minus 19.5. Do not play Maryland.
Man, I like the pick. Tanner Morgan did have a little bit of a disappointing week last week, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he threw for 30 touchdowns last season. Like, he didn't lose it over one off season.
No.
And PJ Fleck is his coach. They get along really well. Whatever problems they have, I expect them to be able to adapt and fix.
I think it's a really good week for them to come back strong and get everything going.
Yes.
So I think they score a lot and cover this one pretty easily. All right. That was mine. We'll go on to your next one. This is what, game 5 for you?
Yeah, I'm going to take it back down to SMU. Kind of just a technical play this week. I bet SMU a lot this year. I really like how lethal their offense is. Shane Bichelle, 1,926 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions this year. He's killing it. Now, they did get their ass beat last week by Cincinnati. Cincinnati's clearly one of the best group of 5 teams in the nation. Ranked number 9 now. I don't know how legit that is, but they proved last week that they are the top tier of the AAC. It's okay, SMU. You were on the road. Now you're back home. And guess who you're playing? Navy. Who at home last week didn't cover against Houston. Houston and SMU are the same team. Houston and SMU have the same offense, the same defense. What do we expect to change here? Navy is a wreck this year. They have played 2 good quarters of football that I've seen, and that has been against the struggling Tulane team earlier this year. SMU, even with the loss to Roberson, finally had a wide receiver step up in Rice. He's got 475 yards this season now and 2 touchdowns. He's going to be the new guy to take over that air raid offense with Bichelle. Navy lost to a mediocre Houston team at home last week, and now you have to go across the country, travel to Texas, and play the same exact style team, but with better players. On top of that, they don't even know who their starting quarterback is going to be. This is just a principal play. Give me SMU.
Yeah, I would back you on that just because Navy.
How Navy disappointed you last week.
Navy, you guys are killing me.
Yeah.
All right. So SMU is your play there. So I am going to go with my next one. And you mentioned Cincinnati. So why not go Memphis, Cincinnati? They are, let's see, Cincinnati's a 7-point favorite now. Over-under is 55. This is a noon kickoff on ESPN. So is Cincinnati the dark horse playoff contender? I mean, they're playing like a college football playoff team right now. They're putting odds makers in check, too, with how they were treated last week. In that game against SMU, they were slated as the underdogs. They blew them out pretty badly at home, 42-13. So their closest game of the year was against Army. They still won that game by 2 touchdowns. They're putting up points in the second half, and their defense is holding good offenses at bay. Memphis has a good offense, and they love playing games against other good offenses because that's able to deter the conversation away from how bad their defense is. Memphis's defense is dead last in yards per game. They've allowed 567 a game on average. Cincinnati is a heavy rushing attack type team too. They don't expect that to change on Saturday either. Last week, Cincinnati, 313 yards on the ground in 35 carries. That's 8.9 yards a rush. So going up against a terrible defense, I would think Cincinnati hits close to that number this week. If not, they go over it, they shatter it. They don't need to pass in this game, but what they're going to rely on with their junior quarterback, Desmond Ridder, maybe he keeps them honest with the passing, but he's also going to factor into the rushing as well. He is throwing at a 60% clip, just over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like we said, rushing yards, especially after last week's performance, is what's going to help him. Last week he ran for 179 on 8 attempts, which included a 91-yard touchdown run. So he has 250 yards on the season rushing. That's tied with running back Jared Doaks. Doaks has 6 TDs on the season. So we know Cincinnati is going to have a field day running the ball, but let's circle back to the defense for Cincinnati. That I mentioned is pretty good. They are best defensive team in the conference good.
Oh, by far.
Right?
They're very clearly tier 1, while everybody else who's closest to them is a tier below.
Yeah. So they're allowing, around 300 yards a game and only allowing 12.5 points a game. Now you look at Memphis and think, okay, I thought Memphis was supposed to have this higher-powered offense. Shouldn't they still be able to put up points on the board? Yeah, they can if they had all their weapons at their disposal. And, for Memphis, obviously they lost DeMonte Coxey for the rest of the season. He opted out. That was their star receiver. So I think that's something that the boys in Vegas are kind of overshadowing in this one with a 7-point spread.
Yes.
Tigers are going to need to find points on the ground, and Cincinnati just simply will not let that happen. Memphis has only covered once in the last 7 games, and they are now 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 against Cincy.
Their defense is just a liability.
Yeah.
You can have the most powerful offense in the nation, but if your defense is just going to let every team you play literally walk down the field into the end zone, how can you back them?
Exactly. And Cincinnati's 5-2 against the spread in their last 7. They've won 15 straight games at home. It's a very bad matchup for Memphis, and Cincinnati could very well find themselves rolling their way into the college football playoff discussion after this game. Taking Cincinnati -7 in this one.
I love it. It's the only side you can back in that game. Yep. All right. For my last game of the Week 9 locks, I'm going to give you a Power 5 game for once.
Oh!
Let's go back to the Ohio State watering hole.
Yes.
Okay, listen. We all watched the Ohio State game. That was the most coveted game to watch last week. Big Ten football was back. They were playing Nebraska. It was kind of a friendly rivalry because they came together to defeat, or at least try to defeat, the evil Kevin Warren. Did I mention I don't like him? Anyways. Let's get into the game. Ohio State won 52-17 last week. And at the end of the day, no matter what the slow start was, they found a way to deviate from whatever level Nebraska was playing at. Penn State, on the other hand, may have probably experienced the most demoralizing loss they could have,
That was
especially with
brutal.
it coming week 1.
Yeah.
But if we look, okay, let's look back at the Penn State-Indiana game. If you're Indiana and you're going for 2, and you're the ref there on the goal line, no matter where you, in real time, you saw the pylon move, and I honestly think he was short, but I can't criticize the ref here. It's a home call. Like, when you see a play that close, you have to give the benefit of the doubt to Indiana.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that right there, what's Penn State playing for the rest of the season? The best they can do is go 7-1, and that's actually if they play all their games. The only thing they have to play for is to beat Ohio State. And
bragging rights.
Yeah, I mean, it's to ruin Ohio State's playoff bid. Right. They're the only team right now from the Big Ten that can go undefeated and make the playoff, in my opinion. I mean, Fields, and Ryan Day's made it clear, Fields is going to air the ball out this year.
Oh, yeah.
They do not want to run that guy. He's a pocket passer. Fields is, I have this debate all the time. I think could push Trevor Lawrence to be the best quarterback in the country. I mean, Justin Fields is a talent.
Yeah,
and
I think so too. I mean, the only thing that Lawrence really has on him right now is he's played more games this year, and I think even after that first week, Justin Fields was 20 of 21.
Yes,
20 of 21.
20 of 21.
That's absurd.
Man, get him in the Heisman race. I hope Kevin Warren doesn't ruin that for him.
Yeah.
But on top of that, Penn State only has 4 returning starters on defense. Sean Clifford threw 2 picks last week. They're not the same team. Sean Clifford also led Penn State in rushing. 119 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
They miss Journey Brown. They miss Miles Sanders. They miss Saquon Barkley. They don't have a stand-up running back this year. I have this game from Ohio State winning from anywhere from 14 to 21 points. So I have to take the 12. Give me Ohio State minus 12 on the road. Little fun. James Franklin does have this team's number. He's the only team in the Big Ten that actually can compete with Ohio State. Has ended up beating them, and on top of that, he's lost to him by 1 point twice. So I mean, his team historically does give a good game to this team. Vegas knows that this point spread should be larger.
Yeah, and normally I would look at this and shy away from that spread just because I've seen the Ohio State-Penn State matchups before, and I've seen how Penn State is a different beast when they play us.
Yes.
But that also is when we're playing in Penn State Stadium, it's during their whiteout game. That's not happening
Where
this
are the
year.
fans?
Right. Yeah, it's going to be a night game, but there's no whiteout. So I don't think Penn State really is going to be able to compete with them. Like I said, when I see Ohio State, I'm taking the over under 63.5. I think Justin Fields goes off this week even more than he did last week. He's going to throw a few more touchdowns. Look for the running backs to get going a little bit for Ohio State too. Master Teague isn't your elusive guy. He's more of a Carlos Hyde type back where he's going to run people over. I think he's starting to get his feet under him. He didn't run a lot last year, obviously, with J.K. But I think Master Teague has a good week, and Trey Sermon, the transfer from Oklahoma, it took him a few series last week to really mesh, but
he figured it out.
When he popped off a run, it looked good.
Yeah.
So they have that elusive power kind of combo in the backfield. I would take the spread in this one too. I would take Ohio State. Again, no fans in the stands is going to be a huge factor for this one. All right, cool.
All right.
I'm glad you're taking my Buckeyes. All right, so I got the last game, don't I?
Yeah. What do you got?
You know what that means.
Uh-oh.
The Moneyline Moneymaker.
Let's go.
All right. So last week, I got a little bit overzealous with my Moneyline Moneymaker pick with Navy. I was confident, probably a little too cocky. I let the ego get the best of me. So after taking that loss, looking myself in the mirror, I decided I had to get back to my roots. Go with a team that simply does not let me down. A team that I can count on to win me a game as an underdog. A team that should not be considered an underdog. a team that wears purple and silver. Talking about Willie Wildcat, the purple pride of Kansas State. My beloved Wildcats, they're 3.5-point underdogs, and that's just silly. Although they are 3-0 straight up as underdogs this year, Kansas State is coming off a shellacking of Kansas in the Sunflower Showdown last week. They won 55-14, while West Virginia lost to Texas Tech. This is the 11th game between the two schools. It's for the series lead. They're both tied 5 games apiece. Yeah, West Virginia's won the last 4. But we know 2020 is not like every other year. 2020 is different. Deuce Vaughn is going to lead the Wildcats to victory. He's going to...
Hell of a name.
Yep. Just because of the name, he's going to lead them to victory. They're going to take the series lead. The Moneyline Moneymaker is getting back on track. 6-2. Here we come. Purple Pride. Kansas State Moneyline plus 155. That's the play this week.
And that game's at West Virginia.
It's at West Virginia.
Yeah. So I know that they will have fans. Man, I've watched this rivalry or turned rivalry for the last 5 years. This game is always a good game.
Yeah.
But what I do know, you have to play on all 3 sides of the ball. You have to play offense, defense, and special teams. If we look past offense and defense, Kansas State has probably the best special teams unit in the nation. That wins games. If we look at West Virginia this year, they've lost games off of special teams mistakes. If we look and think that these offenses and defenses are pretty even, which I think they are, the game may come down to a block punt, a punt return, a kick return. I like it. I'll ride with the Kansas State. I mean, I'm not going to give it out as an official pick, but I'll be taking it.
That's okay because I'm
Yes.
giving it out. It's the Moneyline
Yes.
Moneymaker coming back strong this week. Kansas State is all reliable for me. All right.
All right. No official Moneyline pick from me, but if I had to give you a look, we do trash Notre Dame a lot on this podcast. They are playing Georgia Tech this weekend at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech's can put a good game together.
What is it?
Plus 750.
Okay, I'll put a little bit
Sprinkle
on
it.
it. Why not?
Sprinkle it. Why not? I mean, Notre Dame is a
What's
trash
the
game.
point? Yeah, let's
Like,
do it.
Notre Dame is not a good football team.
I'm not going to put a lot on it.
Yeah,
but
no,
I'll throw a
I'll
little
rock
bit.
Georgia Tech plus 750. I don't expect it to win. They're 20-point underdogs,
But
but
if it does win, we're going to be very happy.
yeah, remember that.
I enjoy that.
So,
all right,
awesome.
cool.
All right, want to recap?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. All right, Big Country's Week 9 college football locks for you. I got Coastal Carolina and Georgia State under 65.5. Give me Tulane -4, Central Florida -2.5, Rice +1.5, SMU -13.5, and Ohio State -12.
Beauty. All right. So my card for this week, we have Boston College +31.5 against Clemson, Oklahoma State -3.5 against Texas, the over 82.5 in the UCF Houston game, Minnesota -19.5 against Maryland, Cincinnati -7 against Memphis, and the Moneyline Moneymaker, Kansas State +155 against West Virginia. That'll do it.
I love it.
Awesome.
All right, we gave you a winning week last week.
Yeah, I mean,
I expected this. The board's not that clear this week, but
no, the
I
Moneyline
like what we
Moneymaker's
have.
still there. We're putting up positive weeks.
sprinkle the plus 750 with
I'm
GT.
telling you, if that hits, we're going to be rolling.
Yes. All right.
It's going to be fun. All right, everybody, make sure you like, subscribe, comment.
Give us a comment. Tell us
Yeah.
what your picks are. We're not, okay, let's be clear. We're not professionals here. We're not using models, gambling models to make our decisions. We're doing our own research. We're watching games. We think you're in the same boat. Send us your picks.
Yeah, let us know what you're thinking. If you have any questions, if you have a game that you want to pick, shoot us a comment. We'll be more than happy to help you out. We'll do a little research for you and see if we can help you out. But as always, like, subscribe. Make sure you tell your friends, family, co-workers, some random guy at the bar, whatever you do. Just get
We
it out
got the
there.
locks for everybody.
All right, follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow me at The Accountant Bets.
Follow me at Big Country Bets.
All right, and that'll do it.
Awesome. We'll catch you next week, guys.
Yes. Have a good one and happy betting.